That's Heffa Schucking. She's minutes away from either being arrested or paying a fine for protesting too close to the government buildings in Bonn. The sawdust her group has dumped at the main entrance to the Chancellor's office represents tropical timber imports into Germany.
There was a lot of attention in the media on rainforest, and you could see, the images of burning rainforest and so on, and people felt strongly about that, but they also felt like this is in the third world, and what are these people and what are these governments in the third world doing? But hardly anyone realized to what extent we're responsible for this destruction, that much of it happens to produce products for people in the consumer countries in the north.
After just 10 minutes, long enough for news crews to capture this footage and spread the word, Heffa's group was allowed to leave without arrest.
That's us cleaning up afterwards. That really freaked them out, that we would dump all that stuff there and then clean it up ourselves.
Heffa's not new to demonstrations. Her first was in the heart of Texas, at the height of Vietnam.
Yeah, I was 12 at the time. I went to my first demonstration then and was really excited and really scared, and what if my parents found out? And then a couple of rows in front of me, I saw this really tall guy, and then I said, hey, it's my dad. He was there too. It definitely helps having that kind of background, that you're coming from a family where people aren't always worrying about, what do the neighbors think and what does the rest of the village think, and so on.
Heffa lives in the village of Sassenberg, about 300 miles from Bonn. The Schucking family has had a presence in Sassenberg for several generations and still owns the house of Heffa's great-grandfather. She lives in the house with her daughter, Leah. From a home office, using the phone, the fax, and even the information superhighway, Heffa runs Urgewald, a small environmental organization. While lobbying Congress in the United States is very common, it was unheard of in Germany until Heffa co-authored the Rainforest Memorandum, a 25-page documentation of Germany's involvement in the destruction of the Third World rainforest.
When we were lobbying with the Rainforest Memorandum, we'd go there and say, look, this document has been signed by over 110 organizations, and altogether they represent, through their membership, over 1 million German citizens, and we want to know from you, how are you going to vote on such and such an issue? And that really, it grabs their attention.
It held their attention, too. German consumption of tropical timber dropped dramatically in only 2 years. With that success behind her, she and Urgewald decided to take on the lending practices of the World Bank. The bank in Washington, D.C. gets its money from over 140 member nations and lends it to developing countries for major aid projects, like hydroelectric dams.
The World Bank, it's basically controlled by the richest countries in the world. Germany is the third biggest shareholder of the bank. I don't know how important this role is, that you have these bureaucrats and they just sit there and decide on projects where thousands of people are going to be affected and they don't even really know what's going on. They just talk to these governments, and the government says, fine, there are not many people living in the area, don't worry about it. And later on, it turns out, like with the Narmada Dam project, 240,000 people that have to be resettled, and there's no place to put them in India.
Heffa's interaction with the German parliament inspired the German executive director to the bank to vote against a major dam project in Thailand. This latest success from Heffa marked the first time in history that Germany voted against a World Bank project.
To then, it was like the Germans would always say yes to anything that the World Bank management proposed. For us, it was totally amazing that we could achieve this kind of national change. And for individual citizens, if they become part of this type of campaign, then it's a type of empowering process that goes on, that you can influence government policy in this way.
For outstanding environmental achievement in Europe, a 1994 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Heffa Schucking of Sassenberg, Germany.